defend the goal, for instance, or be anything shots from close, shots on angle, shots from distance, anything that's like reactions and deflections, that type of stuff, best practice stuff. So we're always sending each other clips and having little discussions around, did you see this save that Edison made, or he may want it in line with where the ball's coming in from, so we can see the movements that the keepers are taking. So I'll be in discussion with whoever's on the radio, and it may just be little bits of in possession, if the goalkeeper can affect it a bit more, if there's a bit of, if we can expose them from goal kicks, if we can, I don't know, play straight into a fullback or something, try and catch them out, and whether it's in swingers, out swingers, again, how that may affect us as the goalkeepers. Do we think it's a type of situation where we want to be coming for the cross, or is it something that we go, actually, we'll just let the centre-backs deal with it? That's a horrible penalty to have to face, because like you said, you can't go early because he'll just roll it in the other corner, so you have to really hold your nerve and wait as long as you can. There's bodies in front of him and he can't see, he's maybe gone slightly out of position so he can actually see the ball, which may put him out of the perfect position, but
Hello and welcome back to the podcast, and today's guest is Adam O'Rourke. So Adam is currently a goalkeeper analyst at Huddersfield Town Football Club, who currently competes in League One of the EFL. So Adam is the first goalkeeper-specific analyst we've had on this channel. As you know, we try and speak to all different types of people working in analysis and scouting and recruitment within the football space. So I was really interested to get Adam on to learn more about his role, what he gets up to day to day, and how he slots in with the rest of the team in terms of the other analysts and goalkeeper coaches. So this video is brought to you by Inplay Online. More on those guys later, but that is a cloud-based video analysis software. So if you're into that sort of thing, please check out the link below. So before we get into the video, I want to quickly ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you do enjoy or find value from this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. So without further ado, let's bring Adam into the conversation. Adam, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. You are actually the first goalkeeper-specific analyst we've had on the channel, so I'm always kind of interested to speak to different people in varying different roles and stuff, so I was quite interested to kind of speak to you in terms of learning more about what you get up to, but also kind of highlight the role in general to other people that might want to kind of, learn a little bit more about it as well. So what I will do first, Adam, I'll pass it straight over to you. So give yourself a little bit of an introduction, who you are and what you're currently doing within football.
So my name's Adam O'Rourke. I'm the first team goalkeeper analyst at Huddersfield Town. This year will be my 6th year at the club. So I started as an intern during my 2nd year of my undergraduate degree, and then progressed into a part-time role. And then this time last year, I became full-time. So this is my 2nd year now in full-time work.
Yeah, perfect. And before we started recording, you were telling me, I asked you actually, who's your team growing up, and it was actually Huddersfield. So you're kind of almost like living your dream at the moment in terms of working at the club that you grew up supporting. Yeah,
definitely. It's a very special feeling for me to be able to represent the club that means so much to me. I think like we said before, it's not something that everyone gets to do, and obviously the dream for every young lad is to play football. And I feel like I've gone on to the next best role, still being out there on the pitch every day with them, going to match days, being that behind the scenes role, that it really does just feel like such a dream position.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll get into kind of match days and stuff later on, and you mentioned their internship, so I just want to paint the picture again for those listening. So sports science degree, internship, that's when you joined. You've also done a master's degree as well, and you mentioned kind of transition from internship to part-time to full-time paid role. So and Huddersfield Town, again, for those that don't know, currently League One in the EFL. We're recording this just at the start of the season, so got off to a good start first game, so we'll see. I'm not sure when this is going to go out, so hopefully that good start has continued, Adam. So I just want to kind of start in terms of that internship kind of route. So that route of degree, internship, job, very typical route. Lots of other people will have done that. Some people, it takes longer than others, but it seems to have worked out really well for you, Adam. So in terms of that internship when you were at uni, I presume that was just unpaid, you going in, volunteering your time and kind of learning your trade for no money at that point.
Yeah, exactly that. So it was, I do think I was in a very fortunate position. So it was just as we were coming out of COVID and the lockdowns, an opportunity came up in my second year of my undergraduate to go in, which I applied for. Honestly, I think I would get anything from it, but I did, and then I've just built upon it from there, really.
And what was that internship? Was that goalkeeper specific at that point, or was that just general analyst at that time?
So initially, it was just as an academy analyst.
Yeah.
However, I think I did about a month or so in the academy, and then I had to sit down with the head of academy performance at the time, who's now head of first team analysis, and has now gone into a more data role.
In terms of when you joined them, what league were Huddersfield in? Because I know, obviously, for those people who might remember Huddersfield, obviously in the Premier League 6 or 7, 8, maybe. I can't remember, it all blurs into one, but they were in the Premier League, obviously spent a lot of time in the Championship, now League One. So where were they when you joined as an intern?
So they were in the Championship.
Okay.
So I've spent the majority of my time in the Championship, and then the last year and then this year in League One.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So then in terms of, because people that they'll be listening to this will either be in internships or maybe looking to get an internship, maybe at uni now and stuff. So do you have any advice for anyone kind of going into an internship? Obviously, we know it's, kind of a debatable topic in terms of working for free, but I think to get ahead in any industry, you've kind of got to put the work and effort in, and it seems that that's just part of the route of working in professional football, whether rightly or wrongly. So in terms of advice for people going into that position of internships, either going in unpaid alongside the studies, what kind of things would you kind of say to them, Adam?
Yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. It is a lot of it starting out unpaid, and then it's, I think even when you do get the paid roles, it is, as they say, unsocial hours. It's, that's just part of the role, but that's why we're going into it. We know what we're signing up for.
Yeah.
So I think that's something you have to accept. But yeah, I think starting out, I mean, you do have to get that bit lucky to, these internships don't come up all too often. So I think you do have to be a bit right place, right time. But once you do get in, I think it is really about showing that you are passionate about the role and the industry, and that it is something that you want to fully get into. It is going almost above and beyond what you've set out to do. It might just be that you're in 2 days a week, but you might be having to do extras just to really show that you want it. I know when I started out, there were 3 of us at the time that joined as interns. So again, that might be a situation where down the line, the 3 of that you go in, there might only end up being 1 role at the end of it. So you may be almost fighting it out between the other people at the club for getting those part-time or full-time roles. So it is showing why you want it and why you deserve that role.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a similar story to me in the fact that I did my first kind of internship in the second year at uni, as you described, and it was a case of going in a couple of days a week at the time. That kind of got to the point where you were going in 3 days, 4 days a week, and obviously doing a bit more, and then kind of just hanging around in the third year of uni and just kind of going from there. So you've also done a master's, which you mentioned, Adam. So was that always your plan to do a master's? Because a lot of people, get in touch with me and say, is a master's worth it? Should I do a master's? I don't know if I should do one. And obviously they've changed a lot since the time I haven't done one. I did apply to do one. I decided against it at the time, but I think now they're more integrated within clubs now in terms of getting that hands-on experience rather than just another course. So how did you find that master's, and was that always a plan of yours to do that as a next step?
Yeah, so I think when I first joined, speaking to the other analysts at the time, there were 2 others that had done the master's course at Worcester, which is where I ended up going and doing mine. So I think just seeing that other people, that is the route that traditionally people tend to do, was always something that I had in my head as, this just feels like the natural progression to do after I'd finished my undergraduate degree. I don't think it is essential. I think you see plenty of analysts in the industry, like you said, that haven't had the masters. I think a lot of it can just be used as a tick box in those interviews, that it looks good on your CV that you've got it. But like I said, I don't think it is completely essential. I think it's, if you've got the knowledge and the experience, that eventually surpasses doing the master's degree. But I also think it's one of those that I don't think you have to do straight away.
Yeah.
For me personally, it was something while I was in the education zone, I wanted to do it immediately after my undergraduate degree. But I know people that have done it a couple of years down the line once they've really embedded themselves within a role.
Yeah, true. Yeah, same, definitely. So did you go into that course? Obviously, you mentioned some of the analysts you were working with had done the same course. Did you go into that course were there other people on the course when you did it that you knew at the time, or maybe you've kept in touch and they've gone on to other roles within football as well? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so I didn't know anyone initially going in. So the course at Worcester runs, they do 2 intensive weeks. They call it, one in around September, October, and one in January.
Yeah.
So that first week when we all went down, we all kind of met up on that first day, and it was, again, another example of first day at school, having to meet everyone, be introduced. But yeah, it was a really good week to actually spend time with everyone, that because the course is run remotely from home,
Yeah.
you don't get those interactions with people like you would on a typical uni course where you're in every day. So I do think it was the best way to actually get us all to bond really quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of keeping in touch with people, we sort of developed a little friend group that there's a good 4 or 5 of us that have then stayed quite close after. One of the other analysts I'm really close to, he's now a first team analyst at West Ham. So when I knew him, he was at Swansea, so he's really kicked on and got into a top job now.
Nice. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying the video so far, but I have a really quick interruption for anybody with an interest in video analysis. So if that's you, please do click the link down below the video for In Play Online. So just to give a quick overview, because I think it'll be relevant to a lot of people that are watching this particular video. So In Play Online is a cloud-based video analysis software. So it allows you to tag your videos, and when you've done your tagging, that includes adding labels, adding comments, adding notes and voice notes even, and you can even illustrate and draw over your clip. So if you are an aspiring analyst looking for your job and you want to create a portfolio of work, if you're a scout looking to make your kind of reports a little bit better and more animated, if you're a coach looking to get into analysis a little bit more, then this tool will be great for you, because it starts at just £15 a month. So once you've done your analysis, you can add all the clips to different playlists, which can be downloaded and exported offline. You can put them into presentations and also share them to different people within your team. So it comes with a whole bunch of other features, but I'll let you click the link down below if you are interested. As I say, packages start at just £15 a month, so it's a very affordable solution if you are looking for something to help with your video analysis. So that's it for the interruption. Let's get back to the video. Oh, that's interesting. So I suppose the next thing I want to ask you about, Adam, is kind of the move or the niche down to goalkeeper analysis. So firstly, was that more the fact that there was a gap in the club and the club wanted someone to do more goalkeeper, or were you do you come from a goalkeeper back? Were you a goalkeeper, or is it more a case of that's what the club needed and you were happy to kind of help out at that point?
Yeah, so in terms of playing, I kind of played, I just loved playing football, so I'd play wherever. So there were a couple of times I played in goal, but it wasn't my favourite position to play at all. I'll be completely honest about that.
Yeah.
So like I touched on, when I joined in the academy, I spent maybe a month there, and then I had a sit down with the head of performance analysis, and he said that the first team goalkeeper coach at the time had basically requested his own analyst. He wanted someone that he could work with and could specifically cater to his needs. And they said that they wanted me to fulfill that role. So it wasn't a role that I, again, sort of like put myself forward for. I was just kind of put into it. But looking back now, I think it's the best decision that happened at the time. I can't see myself having done anything else for the last 5 years. I've really learned to love and appreciate the role of the goalkeeper, and I think it is such an undervalued role that you really don't get that love for unless you're in it every day.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's obviously a very unique position, and one that I'm interested in learning more about. I'm definitely not a goalkeeper expert or anything, so hopefully you can maybe teach me some things today, Adam. So in terms of, because on this channel we've spoke about kind of, especially when people are trying to get into these analyst roles, in terms of maybe posting work online, kind of producing a portfolio and almost niching down. I think like this could be a good topic for people to do that, in terms of, I know maybe you didn't do that, but there's many people that I've had on this channel which have found jobs on the back of kind of posting online, and some people struggle to, okay, what should I niche down, and what kind of analysis can I do? There's a whole bunch of options to choose from, and I think this being a kind of a growing role in terms of the goalkeeper analysis, there's so much that can be done that isn't done yet. And even when we said off camera, you said like you're still learning in the role. You know, the club itself is kind of trying to grow this position and see where to take it. So I think it is a really interesting topic, which I think a lot of people can potentially start producing some work on and find themselves paid roles.
Yeah, definitely. I think you are starting to see, when you look on LinkedIn, more and more jobs coming up that people are starting to want goalkeeper analysts. Then we've seen even this summer there was an academy role at Chelsea came up. There's a role recently, I think it's still currently being advertised at Tottenham, so it's a first team training analyst with goalkeeping responsibilities as well.
Okay.
So you're starting to see these slightly hybrid roles come up as well, but they are being asked for that goalkeeping workflow being embedded into it.
Yeah, definitely. So, because I'm not sure, I think it probably will have come out, but I had a coach analyst on recently, and obviously that's kind of a similar, in the same vibe of it's a growing role. More clubs are hiring in that coach analyst position, and I think we'll probably see that with, as you mentioned, goal. I didn't know them jobs, I didn't see them jobs, the ones that you mentioned, but I think it's only a matter of time when more clubs are understanding the value that a specific goalkeeper analyst can bring, and obviously hire them in. I mean, I'm sure you're probably the only goalkeeper analyst in League One, I would guess. I don't know that for sure, but I would probably guess. Or do you know of any others?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Probably at this level,
Yeah.
I don't think there's many even in the Championship. Probably won't. If there is, it may be a very similar thing. Of it may just be an intern
Yeah.
that's just doing it as part of bit jobs here and there to maybe film the goalkeeper training and maybe put together little bits on penalty work or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just going back to the days of when I was kind of analyst, in terms of when you had to do everything. It was just a small part of, do penalties or a bit of set pieces and stuff, and that was all the goalkeepers really got. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that. So in terms of then how you slot in with the other staff in the club, then Adam, it'd be kind of cool to hear about that. So like in terms of the other analysts within the club, and then obviously how you liaise with the goalkeeper coach and the other goalkeepers and stuff like that, if you can.
Yeah. So in terms of our department, we're again probably one of the bigger analysis departments in League One. So we're at 5 full-time analysts.
Okay, cool.
So we have 2 that cover opposition. They rotate games, and while one's leading the game, the other will cover training. So we have all that covered. We have a coach analyst ourselves who covers set pieces. We obviously have myself as the goalkeepers, and then we have another analyst who covers a lot more of the data side.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely one of the bigger departments for the league that we're in. So in terms of sort of how I interact with them, I'm a lot to do with myself. I don't have loads and loads of interactions, but I will deal with each one individually as I need to. So again, I'll get certain bits of data from the data analyst.
Yeah.
Me and the coach analyst will speak around set pieces. Obviously, both attacking and defending. There's goalkeepers involved at both ends, so it's something that I can try and pass on little bits of anything I notice of the opposition goalkeeper, and then how us defending might affect our goalkeeper. And then I'll speak to the 2 opposition guys to sort of get games off of them, look at how the opposition are likely to cause us threats, and again how that impacts us as the goalkeepers. In terms of speaking with so we have obviously our head of goalkeeping and then our academy goalkeeper coach. So I work with both. It's not just a role that's tailored to the first team. I do a lot of work with the academy goalkeeper coach and the 21s and 18s goalkeepers as well, as much as I can. You know, the demands of first team football in League One are so high that is the majority of the role, but I do like to spend as much time as I can helping out with the academy stuff. So we'll have meetings all the time and sit down and have little chats around anything we've seen, whether it's training, matches, best practice stuff. So we're always sending each other clips and having little discussions around, did you see this save that Edison made, or just making little notes, and then I'll clip them up, paint on them and then save them as best practice clips that we might show prior to training, something like that. And then with the players themselves, so I'll be out on the grass every day with the first team goalkeepers. So I have a lot of one-to-one interactions with them and get to see them. I think that's something that as analysts, I don't think we get a whole lot of interaction with the players. I think, you're usually the one in the meeting on the keys that you're off to one side. But I do think I'm in a very fortunate position in that I do get to spend that time and build those relationships with the players. And again, very similar things we might be discussing, little bits in training that we've seen, or again, games at the weekend, or whatever it is. So yeah, that's kind of my main interactions with those that I work closely with.
Yeah, nice. Nice. So, yeah, so we'll get into some of them things in a bit more detail as we go through, Adam. I've got your LinkedIn profile up as well, so I thought it'd be kind of useful to go through. You've listed some of your roles and responsibilities for the current role, so if we can kind of just go through a couple of them just to kind of dive into what you're doing for each one, really. So first one, capture and code training session. So are you out there every day with you mentioned you're on the grass as well, so is that getting filmed, I would presume? Are you then reviewing that afterwards? How does the whole training aspect look?
Yeah, so so I'm out on the grass every day. So I've got a little video camera that I'll just stick on a tripod and
Yeah.
place it behind the goal or move it round. Constantly having discussions with the goalkeeper coach about what angle might look best, what he wants to get out of it, whether it is that direct behind the goal or if it's crossing positions. He may want it in line with where the ball's coming in from, so we can see the movements that the keepers are taking. So I think that's something that's key, is being out there so we can actually have those little discussions, and in order to get the best footage, so that, like you said, when we do review it, we're looking at exactly what we want to look at and getting the best angles for that. I think a cool part of my role at the minute is I'm starting. So over the last year or so, I've started to be involved in little bits of sessions. So whether that's serving or being in there for rebounds or whatever it is, that's something that we've sort of started to build into the role of, rather than just me just being out there and just standing around waiting to move the camera. It's, well, can we use me, especially if we've started with a group of 4 keepers and 2 of them have had to go in with the team. You've then got the goalkeeper coach and myself can step in and add more bodies into the sessions, which again, I love being part of the sessions. I think it's a really cool aspect of my job. So that's kind of how training looks on the grass. I'll then come into the office, download it all, clip it up, so I'll code it. I'll clip a row per keeper's action, so that rather than having to watch through the entire session, they can just click on their row and it's just their clips, and they can just get through them really quickly and just save them time for having to look through a bunch of actions that potentially aren't relevant to them.
That's interesting that you are getting the opportunity to kind of take part in these sessions as well. Like, say, whether it is just serving or you kind of ingraining yourself, and I suppose you're then being in and around like the goalkeepers and the goalkeeper coach. You're learning a lot more about the role of a goalkeeper as well, which is obviously going to be of benefit to you in your role.
Yeah, definitely. Just hearing the conversations that go on, or the little coaching points, it massively helps me. Like you said, it's something that when I'm then watching, if I'm reviewing footage, I know little clips that I can immediately go to because that's something that was highlighted, or I can look for other instances. I can go back to previous training sessions and then start clipping up stuff because I know that will then come up in the IDPs. Or even if I'm just watching games, I can then start to tag stuff that are relevant to the training sessions and their IDPs.
Yeah, definitely. So another thing that's listed on your profile is best practice database of clips. You touched upon this a second ago in terms of kind of getting clips of maybe you've seen a particular goalkeeper do a save and you kind of collate that together and maybe draw on it. So just for those watching, just a little bit more on what's the purpose of best practice, and is that used across the whole club in terms of even the first team as well as the academy, and how does it look overall, Adam?
So we'll typically, I'll be on Scout most days looking through clips. Or like I said, it may be the goalkeeper coach has sent me some clips, I'll download them. We'll paint them all up, make them look nice. And then, I guess the purpose is it is used across both first team and academy. So we'll do little pre-training videos that we've got a goalkeeping WhatsApp group. So we'll put videos in there, and it might just be, here's the theme of the session. So at the minute, we've brought in a new goalkeeping coach under the new manager that's come in. So we're sort of building the goalkeeping philosophy at the minute as he wants it to look going into the future. So at the minute, we're doing a lot of clips of other goalkeepers to sort of build, this is how we want it to look. With the aim being that we'll then replace those clips with our goalkeepers across the first team and academy based on matches. So it's then fully based on what a Huddersfield Town goalkeeper looks like. But like I said, at the minute, it is clips of Edison or Allison, but just looking at their best actions that we go, this is how we want you to perform.
And would that be split up, Adam, in terms of, say, you'd have clips of their, I don't know, positioning or footwork or distribution and split in terms of that. So you've got like almost like a library of each action that makes up a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, so to people from a goalkeeping background, this won't come as a surprise, but we use the model of defend the goal, defend the area, defend the space, and distribution. So it's a very typical four-corner model that a lot of goalkeeping coaches will use. So everything that I do is split into that model, and then each thing's broken down. So defend the goal, for instance, will be anything shots from close, shots on angle, shots from distance, anything that's like reactions and deflections, that type of stuff. So everything will be broken down further into whether it's a hand or a foot save, or just those little things. So everything is broken down, and my code window is full of all sorts of labels and stuff that then reflect that. So everything that we clip up will be in those specific areas that then, if we go, okay, today's training session is crosses from wide areas, eventually we'll just have then a database full of clips that we can go, okay, here's the best ones. It might be, here's a clip of Jose Sarr at Wolves taking a high cross, and then here's one of our under 21s goalkeepers doing it, because it's a really good example, and that may be shown to the first team goalkeepers as well. It's not something that's, well, here's the first team, so we have to show them. It might just be, here's just the best clip we've got, and it really gets our point across.
See what I mean about, I'm no goalkeeper expert. Those the four corners you mentioned, I'd not. So can you just say them again, Aaron? So defend the goal. What was it?
Defend the goal, defend the area, defend the space, and distribution.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Like I say, I'm no goalkeeper expert. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So another thing on here then on your profile is, which a lot, when people think of kind of goalkeeper analysis, they might think of this in terms of free kick and penalty analysis for pre-match. So that's kind of, again, going back many years when I was an analyst, that's to the extent that I would have done. Like, I'd look at the penalty takes, look at the set plays and stuff, and see if you can prepare the goalkeeper in the best way. But I just wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this in terms of, are you kind of looking at, so say the opponent, are you looking at the typical shot types that team would, maybe you'd expect from that team? Like if a team plays a lot of long balls and lots of crosses, are you kind of trying to prepare your goalkeeper to know what to expect when they play a certain opponent, I suppose?
Yeah, so if we take the penalties and free kicks first, so that takes up a good chunk of a day to look through. So I'll typically at this level, I'll look through every player that's taken a penalty. At the top levels, we know that if you're playing against Liverpool, it's going to be Mo Salah that takes it. As long as he's on the pitch at this level, it's a lot harder to predict. So some of our recent teams that we came up against, their main penalty taker had left. So then it's a case of, right, you're under pressure now, who is going to take? And so, and again, as you know, you have to get these things right. It's there's a lot of pressure involved in it. So I'll spend a lot of time looking through penalty takers, going back through, trying to find as much footage as I can. There's not always great footage available. There's a lot of times I've had to go onto YouTube trying to look up individual games and see if I can find even just a fan camera in the stands of if they've managed to capture it. And sometimes that's been enough to go, okay, he's done a different penalty there that from all the others he's taken, but at least we've now got that footage. So typically we'll look at the last 5, but sometimes we may go further back and look at as many as we can, depending on, so if it was a shootout, we'll try to get as much as we can and really nail down what we think they might do. So typically last 5 penalties, and we'll try and make a decision based on what we think they might do. So I'll make a little like penalty map as well, so a little visual just to make it really clear for the keepers when they're looking. It's all color coded of whether it was a goal, whether it was saved, whether they missed the target. And then in terms of the free kicks, again, so I'll work with the coach analyst, who I said deals with a lot of set players, and we'll sort of look through and look at direct free kicks, wide free kicks, and sort of what that may look like, whether it's in swingers, out swingers, and sort of again how that may affect us as the goalkeepers. Do we think it's a type of situation where we want to be coming for the cross, or is it something that we go, actually we'll just let the centre backs deal with it? So that'll be something I'll put together. I'll deliver that to the goalkeeping coach, and then we'll send that across to the goalkeepers again, usually via WhatsApp. We'll just put it in there, they can all look at it, and then we'll let them make their decisions and then come back to us and have those little discussions about what we think around it. And then, so we'll run what we call attacking trends, which is, like I said, how an opposition's going to attack us, whether it's wide crosses, whether it's they look to try and get in the box and little cutbacks and stuff like that. So I'll usually try to get that to the goalkeeping coach on a Saturday, so that he's then got Sunday to start preparing how he wants the weeks of training to look. We're not a goalkeeping department that just has we'll just do certain sessions throughout the week and that's what the week looks like, regardless of the opposition. We really do try to tailor our sessions to actually have an impact on the game on the Saturday, because ultimately that's the most important thing is fighting for that 3 points. And if we can put our keepers in those real situations of what they're going to face on Saturday, then we've done our job to prepare them the best we can.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I suppose kind of simulating the match experience, isn't it? If you're playing against a team next week that has scored a lot of goals from cutting it back, and then shots from the penalty spot or whatever, if you can replicate that as much as you can in training, so they've had all week kind of expecting that and kind of knowing what that might be coming from that team, they'll feel a lot more comfortable, and that might make the difference in the game, and they might make a save that they might not have made otherwise. So that's really cool. So you mentioned kind of feeding that to the goalkeepers. You've got your goalkeeper WhatsApp groups, which is really cool. So in terms of post-match stuff now, Adam. So this is on your profile in terms of what you do. So post-match reviews and stuff. So how is that something? Do you get together? Like, do you get the goalkeeper in a room? Are you having like a meeting with the goalkeeper, or is it the goalkeeper coach? Are you feeding back with a report? Is it just video clips? How does the whole kind of post-match situation look, Adam?
Yeah, so post-match has kind of looked different under different goalkeeper coaches that I've worked under. So we've done different things. So whether it's just putting all the clips in an organizer and we'll just present, here's all the defend the goal actions, defend the area actions, defend the space actions, and just kind of go through it like that. We've done it before where it's just kind of been left with me to just pick out, just pick out the clips that you think the best to show. So again, that really helped to develop me and my goalkeeping knowledge of being able to pick out the most relevant clips to show. Sometimes we've just gone through every clip in sort of like chronological order. So it's not split up, it's just here's your actions throughout every time you're involved in it. But at the minute we've made some output windows. So we've got a separate one. So to try and make it a bit more visual, we've got an output window for each area of defend the goal, defend the area, defend the space, and distribution, which I'm really proud of the work that we've done putting those together. They look top, in my opinion. And I think, like I said, so we'll sit down. So it'll be myself, the goalkeeper coach, and the goalkeeper will go into one of the meeting rooms. We'll put up the output window up on the TV, and then immediately that just gives them a little visual of this is how the game looked. So we'll have, it might say the number of instances or how successful they were at certain actions. So they just get a little visual of, okay, this is how the game looked as in the numbers. So like I said, we're not the most data heavy department for the goalkeepers, but this is sort of like our introduction of trying to get little bits of data involved in it. And then, we'll just go through the clips, have little discussions. We might not talk about any clip. We might just, if the goalkeeper wasn't really involved in the game, we might just show one or two instances, or if there was a goal conceded, that might be the only thing that was actually relevant from the game. So we're not rigid in terms of we'll show every clip, or sometimes depending on the game, it might not be worth doing a review. It might be we'll see how the game next Saturday goes, and then we might put both together and do a double review, something like that.
And not just doing them for the sake of doing them with
exactly.
Purpose. So that's interesting. So that was, I haven't got the names of people, but some people did submit questions, and whoever did, thank you for that. So that was a question. So for any future kind of guests, I do kind of open it out to people, if they do want to ask questions. So another one was, so that was one. Another one was around kind of using the goalkeeper analysis to kind of frame sessions. You've touched upon it a little bit in terms of like pre-match stuff, where we can shape sessions to be what to expect, but I suppose that can also happen the other way in terms of if you're doing a post-match meeting and you've got certain things in there that will then potentially shape future sessions. If a goalkeeper's doing a certain tendency that you want to maybe change or improve upon, I suppose that can also model the sessions that the goalkeeper coach is designing.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, if we have an instance where in the game the keeper drops one or two crosses, it doesn't mean we're going to do crossing all week now and hammer that into him. But it may be something we go, okay, well, why did he drop those couple of crosses? It may be footwork, and someone might go, okay, well, that's rather than doing it as the session, that's his IDP, so that's what we'll work on. So it may be, okay, at the end of the session, we've got him for 5-10 minutes at the end. Let's just do a couple of crosses and we'll just show him this is why we're working on it. But it's not a case of, like I said, he drops a couple and go, well, that's what we'll do all week now, and really punish him for dropping one or two crosses.
Yeah, definitely. So another thing that's listed on your profile, Adam, is kind of helping with recruitment and kind of goalkeepers that are on loan and stuff. So I just wondered if you can explain this a bit more in terms of, I've had recruitment analysts on here, so we know that is a separate role again, but obviously you're kind of probably helping a hand when it comes to the goalkeeper side of things. So what's your kind of role in that, and how does that fill your time?
Yeah, so I've done little bits over the couple of years that I've been at the club helping out with recruitment. Usually it's just the recruitment guys coming to me, or even the academy recruitment guy, and maybe just sending me a text or something, or coming up to see us. It might just be, oh, can you just have a look at this keeper? Usually it's someone that they've had a look at themselves, so it's not all on me. It's, we've had a look at him, quite like the look of him. Can you just have a bit of a see what you think from someone with that bit more goalkeeping knowledge? And then, in terms of the loan stuff, so with the previous loans manager that we had, again, it would be, I would download their games, clip them up as we normally would, send the footage across to him for him to have a look at, and he's then got all those clips available to him. So again, it looks like how our post-match reviews would. But we would still keep in contact with them, as well as myself and the goalkeeping coach. And again, we may do little reviews as well. Obviously, the bulk of that would be left to the club and the goalkeeper coach that he's working with. But we still like to keep that contact time with them as much as we can.
Okay, so if you've made it this far into the video, you must be enjoying the content. Either that, or you have simply fallen asleep. So whichever one of them it is, you probably won't mind me asking you for a quick favour. So as you know, I'm always looking to grow the channel. So the bigger the channel gets, the more people we can reach and impact, but also the bigger and better guests we can invite on to the channel to have these types of chats. So with that in mind, if you haven't already done so, I would very much appreciate it if you did hit the subscribe button down below the video. The stats are showing around 25% of viewers are subscribed. So there's a big chunk of you that are watching the videos, but you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, but I will let you off because you can do it right now. It's free and it literally takes 1 second. So if you go down, click the subscribe button, it would mean a lot to the channel and help the channel to grow. So that's all for now. Let's get back to the video. Yeah, nice. So one thing I do like to ask analysts on here, Adam, is kind of just to paint, we've gone into sort of different roles and responsibilities. I just want to see how that kind of is pulled together into like an average week if we can. So if we imagine, I know you said earlier yourself in terms of the EFL structure is quite busy and stuff, like we'll go for this example on a 1 game week. So let's say the game's just finished, the final whistle's gone. What are you doing from that point on in terms of getting stuff ready, getting ready for the next week and prepping for the next game? And then once we've done that, we'll talk about actual match days and what you get up to on matches. But if we can go kind of the average week first.
Yeah, so as soon as full time on a Saturday, myself and the lads that are working will head on down and start getting the game ready. So we'll pull together all our timelines into one package that we'll then send across so we'll get the hard drives of the manager and all the first team coaches. We'll put everything on there. The opposition guys will then put on any games or organisers for the next opponent. So the current gaffers wants everything immediately after the game so that they can then spend their Saturday evening and Sunday then starting to look and, like I said, prepping the week ahead, and that's no different for us. So again, I'll take the goalkeeper coach's hard drive and put on the game and anything I've got on our attacking trends, and if I've had time at that point, I may have put up a couple of little bits around the penalties. Although that's not usually required until later in the week. So then once that's done, we sort of go into Sundays. So Sundays are our day off, which, as you all know, day offs are usually meant you'll still do a little bits of work anyway. And then Monday, I'll come in, we'll have a meeting with the goalkeeping coach and sort of decide, are we doing a meeting? Has he picked out any clips? Does he want me to do that? Will we do it together? However that post match is going to look, and then we'll sort of run through what training is going to look like for the day, and then I'll sort of do any. So I haven't done yet, but going into the season, my Monday morning will be look back through Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, looking at either any best clips I've seen. I'll watch Match of the Day or the EFL show, anything like that. And so I'll have in my head, okay, this was an instance in whichever game it was, that might be a good clip to keep.
Yeah.
Or even just something I like to do is just watch through all the goals that have been conceded. And just, again, it just gives me an idea of, okay, what are teams looking like? How are they actually scoring goals, not just in our league, but across all the leagues, across English football. Because I think you can really start to pick out little trends then. And again, you never know, we may get someone, Championship team in the FA Cup, and we'll go, okay, well, I've actually seen them a couple of little times. So that'll be a typical Monday morning. Then we'll go into training. So they'll be out on the grass. I'll come in, I'll clip up all that. Again, I'll then send across a little organiser with any clips to the goalkeeping coach of, here's a little few bits I picked out. Is this anything you want to keep? Is this something for IDPs? It'll be yes, no, maybe. And then I'll then be starting to look at prepping for the rest of the week. So building into the following Saturday, getting stuff ready. It'll be a very similar thing on Tuesday. Again, just doing as much as I can. Throughout the week, there'll be little ad hoc tasks that come up where it may be, can you just put together this? Or, one of the other coaches may come in and go, has anyone got 5 minutes just to put this together? So I think you always have to be very flexible with your workflows and not just stuck in, I'm doing this. There's always extra work that needs to be done. And then again, very similar on Wednesday. Thursday, again, typically our day off in a Saturday to Saturday week. And then going into Friday, match day -1, it'll be, have we got everything ready now? We need to start sending stuff out to the players. That's whether it's the attacking trends, the penalties. We like to try and typically send it the day before, just so it gets in their head. I don't think you want to be doing loads on a match day with them. I think it's slightly different if it's a midweek game, because you'll have all the time either at the training ground or in the hotel, wherever you are. But I think on a Saturday, you really want to just leave them to it, and have the majority of your work done and sent out by Friday evening.
Yeah. And then kind of getting to match day, then kind of what time are you arriving, Adam? What's your kind of role on, where are you on match day? Are you on the bench? Are you in the gantry? Are you in the stand? Like what does that look like?
So typically I'll get to the training ground for 9-10 o'clock if it's a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. Again, I'll be getting anything ready so that I've got everything. So come full time, I can send everything across, to make sure that I'm fully ready for that. I'll then head down to the stadium at normally about 12 o'clock. So I'll typically cover the stadium setup for home games. So setting up all our equipment on the bench, on the gantry, wherever we are, getting the changing room ready, putting all the set players up, all that type of stuff. And then it's just a case of waiting for the players to arrive, seeing if the coaches need anything last minute. We'll get the team sheets. I'll have a little discussion with the goalkeeper coach of, okay, is the main penalty taker there? If he is, great. If not, have we got everything on everyone else? Do we need to do a quick last minute look? And then, so on when the game kicks off, so we'll be, for home games, we're up in our press box. So there'll be usually 3 of us on a home game. We'll have radios down to the bench. So I'll be, in discussion with whoever's on the radio, and it may just be little bits of, in possession, if the goalkeeper can affect it a bit more, if there's a bit of, if we can expose them from goal kicks, if we can, I don't know, play straight into a fullback or something, try and catch them out. If set players, if they're looking a little bit slow on transitions, can we speed it up, and really try and hurt them on a counter attack, something like that. I'll clip up our game from the goalkeeper's perspective, like I touched on that four corner model, is what I'll use. And then once the game's done, that cycle just goes back again. We'll get all the hard drives, put everything on, and we're ready to go for the following game.
Nice. So when you're watching the game, Adam, are you watching both goalkeepers? Are you watching, obviously your goalkeeper is the main one, but are you also maybe noticing things that the opposition goalkeeper's doing that obviously from the press box you're a little bit elevated? So are you focusing on looking at that other goalkeeper as well in terms of, can you influence how you can maybe affect that kind of stuff if they're doing a certain thing that can be exploited at all?
Not as much. It's potentially something that we could do, but normally I'll be focused on our goalkeeper and sort of what we can do from our perspective. I'll normally have looked at the opposition goalkeeper in the week. Something I forgot to mention. So I'll normally put together a little couple of clips of his sort of maybe strengths, weaknesses. But live is not really something that I'll touch upon.
Yeah. I just kind of going back over 10 years, but when I was at Brighton, Adam, what we used to do as a team of analysts, since it kind of fell on different people each week, but sometimes we'd always basically set a camera up solely for the goalkeeper, so it would just be literally behind the goal. There was a little kind of perch behind the goal in the stand, and that would just focus on the goalkeeper and the kind of, the area. And I do remember kind of after the game, when we go to the analyst room and stuff, the goalkeeper, it was Cusack at the time, Thomas Cusack. He always used to come into the room. We wanted to see his clips straight after the game, see things straight away, whether he'd done something right or wrong or whatever. So, that camera just focusing on the area, and obviously that was then reviewed from the goalkeeper coaches, and kind of, it was interesting. So it's long time ago, but it was all fun.
Yeah, so at home games we have two cameras on the top of each stand behind the goal.
Yeah.
So again, they're high up, so you see teams have like the little GoPros and stuff behind, but we have them on the tops of the stands so that we actually get a full view of the pitch from that more tactical angle that, again, just gives us as best a view as we can. For away games, the media team normally put GoPros behind the goals just to get any kinds of angles that they want. So that's again something that will be sent over to me and just added into our package, just so we've got as many angles as we can of the game.
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose what we'll kind of touch upon next, Adam, you mentioned that you are more sort of video based than database, which is again totally fine. The club's got a kind of a more data analyst position, so that person's probably more clued up on the data and uses that more. But I think it would be definitely useful to mention some things about goalkeeper specific stats. I think people have kind of know of obviously the simple ones in terms of, I don't know, clean sheet, save percentage, goals conceded above average and stuff like that. So how do you kind of think about stats, and is that something you want to get to where you're integrating that a bit more into your workflow, Adam?
Yeah, I think they're the basic ones that if we are to use stuff, that's normally our go-to things. Just have a quick look at what they look like. But yeah, I do think that it's something that we'll start to try to integrate more and more. And I think with the new goalkeeper coach coming in, I think so he came from Leeds United, so I think they used a lot more stats. So I think he's quite clued up on it, which again will be good for when we do start to bring stuff in. I think he'll already have a good understanding of how he wants to use it and what it can look like, which will benefit me down the line for when we do start to introduce it. With our output windows that we use for the post-match reviews, we've got like a little section on the defend the goal one where, like I said, it might just be stuff around XG or XG against, and so we'll have little, this is what it was for this game, here's what it was for the previous game. You can't mark everything on, each game is different, but sometimes it might just be a little indication of, well, how's it changed over the last couple of games? Is that then down to something that we're doing tactically different each game, or is that teams starting to figure us out? What does that look like? But we're not very strict on that and going, well, we have to hit certain targets for it, or it's just as a little indication of
Yeah.
here's what it looked like per game.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned XG there. I think because you see on kind of Sky Sports and things when they show stats on goalkeepers and save percentage and stuff like that. I mean, that's you've got to look deeper than that in terms of what is the quality of the shots that the goalkeepers are saving, and obviously that's not just down to the goalkeeper, that's down to the whole team, like the defence. Are they allowing shots from long distance, short distances, etc.? And that obviously all kind of determines the stats that the goalkeeper's going to have at the end of the day. So in terms of then stats that you maybe. In fact, no. What we'll do is we'll jump to because I had a conversation recently, Adam, with a goalkeeper coach, and obviously he knows a lot more about this thing than me. But in terms of positioning, and I would find that would be in terms of how I would look at stats that I would if I would want to stats for certain goalkeepers, it'd be things like shot stopping, positioning, kind of commanding their area, distribution, kind of the physicality and stuff like that. So there's lots of things that can be quantified with stats, I would imagine. But I think positioning is quite an interesting one because it's hard to kind of quantify in the fact that it's position of the goalkeeper, but then position of the goalkeeper in relation to the ball, and then in the defenders and things like that. So I suppose any kind of save that a goalkeeper makes is determined by their position. Like if they're in the better position, it'll be easier to make the save. So just a little bit. I don't know. Not even really a question in there, Adam. In terms of just riff on kind of positioning and how you think about making sure. Reviewing positioning from clips, maybe it doesn't have to be stats, but in terms of making sure the goalkeepers are in the right positioning and how that determines their save percentage and things like that.
Yeah, so it's quite funny actually. This is something that a conversation I had with the academic goalkeeping coach at the end of last season. We were sort of looking at it and going, if someone can create some kind of way of defining this is the optimal position to be in for every action from every distance, you'll be a very rich person. Now, in terms of actually looking at positioning, so StatsBomb do provide now a diagram that kind of shows the different actions, the goalkeeper's position, and what they define as a bit of an optimal position. I'm not sure exactly how reliable it is. I think it'll get better and better as we go on, and obviously they'll collect more and more data. But that's something that we've used a little bit just to kind of not necessarily to show the goalkeepers themselves, but just to kind of look at it from our point of view and go, well, do we agree with that? And then flicking back to the video and going, well, actually, we understand why he's maybe not been in what they've defined as the optimal position. If there's bodies in front of him and he can't see, he's maybe gone slightly out of position so he can actually see the ball, which may put him out of the perfect position, but seeing the balls actually then allowed him to make the save. Just like you said, due to where the defensive line is, where other attackers are, all those types of factors that are involved in these goalkeeping actions.
Yeah, no, that's it, because that was a question someone submitted in terms of what would be useful to know, and like say that optimal position, that is, like in terms of, you hear people say kind of, narrow the angle, which is, that's obviously linked to position. So you're narrowing the angle, it's less of a goal to aim at, but then you're kind of limiting your reaction time. You're closer to the ball, so you've got less time to react to the shot and stuff. So there's loads of different kind of variables. Yeah, I just find that really interesting. I think there's probably a lot of work that can be done on goalkeeper position and analysis on that's yet to be done. So there's a whole kind of worms to be open there, I would say. And maybe people are doing that. I'm not sure. If you are, then get in touch because it'd be cool to chat. But that's really interesting. So I suppose then we've gone over a few questions from viewers. I'll just see if there's any more. So we've talked about kind of how it looks live. So you said you're on the walkie-talkie or the radio, whatever, down to the bench. So someone did ask about kind of second and third choice goalkeepers. So you mentioned you kind of do cover where you can academy goalkeepers as well, the 21s. But a lot of times it is a position where, if your first choice goalkeeper's fit, like the second and the third are just never going to get a look in. So how is that relationship with those guys, and how are they ingrained within you mentioned you've got a WhatsApp group, like the goalkeeper club in the team?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like you said, it's one of those, and every goalkeeper kind of knows that that's the gig, that only one can play, and it's not a situation where someone's going to come on for the last 10-15 minutes and you'll still get a couple of minutes and you can affect it. It really is, like you said, as long as the number one's fit, he'll play until he drops a stinker, and then your chances come up, and when they do, as the two, you've got to be ready to take them. So I think that's your motivation really, is you have to be as good as you can in training every day and put yourself in front of the manager, that as soon as he has that question, he goes, well, player X is struggling at the minute, but we've got player Y. He can step in. He's ready. You don't want a situation where they're going, we've not got a second or third that could step up. So I think you really do have to build your goalkeeping group to be as strong as possible, which is difficult. Like I said, for the players, they know that they're not going to get a whole lot of game time, and I think being a third choice is one of the most difficult roles. A lot of time you'll try and play a 21s game when you can, but you'll be in different age groups. So we have a young third choice, others will go for a more experienced, like your Scott Carson's at Man City, but we'll go for quite a young one. So again, he'll be training with us 1 week, and then we might be dipping into some of the academy stuff because that's where he's needed. He might be able to play a 21s game. He might not play for a little while, but the trade-off is he's training with the first team every day. He's going to games. He's out there for the warm-ups and the little bits of shooting at the end. But yeah, in terms of keeping them happy and integrated, I think we do a good job. I think everyone, we are a tight group. Everyone kind of pulls together, and I'll always be having little discussions with them. Whether it's in person or over text, or I'll put up little clips. They'll constantly send me messages. My phone's always going with, can I have some clips of Donnarumma doing this action? Then I'll pull them off, stick them up, and then they'll go through and be like, this is something that I noticed, and we'll have little discussions. We'll always try to tailor clips and get them to pick out keepers that are relevant to them. So if we've got a really tall 6'6" keeper, there's no point looking at clips of a keeper that's only 5'10". We want them to be as relevant as possible. So I do think that it can be difficult, like I said, for keeping that second and third choice happy, but I do think that we do as good a job as we can. And at the minute we've got two very good goalkeepers that are in that position where they're both pushing and fighting to be number one.
Yeah. So in just going back to kind of the post match, so after the game, you're going through the clips, you've got the output window on the TV. So is that just with the first? Is the goalkeeper that played, or is the second choice in there as well? Is the third, are they involved in that kind of meeting / discussion in terms of post match? If they didn't play, that is.
We've done it different ways. Sometimes we've had them in. Normally, it's just the goalkeeper that played. Things that we've done before, though, is we may have got the number 2 to go in one of the reviews of the under 21s or the under 18s, and sort of have them just sitting, and again they might pass on little bits that they've noticed or start little discussions. It's just kind of about feeling it out, and if the number 1's not had such a great game, you probably don't want the number 2 in there. But if it is
it's a weird dynamic, isn't it? Because obviously you're part of the same team, but I suppose the second choice keeper doesn't obviously want the first one to mess up, but that's the only way they're going to kind of get in. I suppose that's their opportunity to kind of shine. But I suppose that goes for every position as well. They're all fighting to play in the first team, I would say. So one thing I did want to ask, Adam, was kind of looking ahead as the role as a whole, and this is not just specific to Huddersfield Town, this is just the goalkeeper analysis sector, really. So you touched upon maybe a little bit, your answer is linked to the position of goalkeepers and things like that, but is there anything that you kind of look towards us? How do you see the role evolving over the next sort of 5 to 10 years? Probably more data, more adoption from clubs, but what's your thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I do think that the position specific stuff would be a huge change, and a great addition for not just goalkeeper analysts, but I think you're seeing more and more of these younger coaches are a lot more clued up on data and the analysis. And a lot of them have had to do their own analysis because they've not had someone like myself that can be there to assist them. And a lot of the time in departments, the goalkeeper work isn't always the most important. It'll get done as much as can be. So a lot of the times the goalkeeper coaches have to be the ones that are good enough on whatever platform it is that they're using to be able to clip up their own bits. So I think it would just be a massive help for them to be able to fully be able to see easy stats that really reflect okay, this is something that I can then put immediately into my training sessions and go, okay, well, here's what we define as the optimal position. Our goalkeeper is playing either way too high or way too deep from that. So that's an immediate change that I can implement. I can put that in their IDP. We can start working on it and you'll immediately see results. I think possibly the other thing would be to get an easier way of looking at penalties. I know, a lot of my time is just spent looking through and then creating the maps myself. I know that, there have previously been ways that you can get little penalty maps that have been downloaded that are already done, but they've not always been the most accurate. To be honest, when I've looked at them and then when I've gone to the video, because we'll still want to use the video to look at it, I'm looking and I'm going, that's not where the penalty's gone, or that's not the correct taper. So I think that would be a massive change, and that would speed up a lot of workflows, not just for myself, but for analysts across every club that do those little bits of penalty work. That if you can just speed up that, then that would be a massive help for everyone.
I think that the penalty one's interesting because it's always seems it's just a case of this is a map of this person's penalty, this is where they tend to put them or whatever. But I think a lot more can be done, and probably people are doing this. But in terms of actually looking at the taker, like does their run up change when they play at certain, what's their body position like? Do they stutter? Do they do this? So because and you've seen, obviously you'll have seen definitely, like the goalkeepers will sometimes just wait and see, and obviously good penalty takers can just make the decision very late. But there's a lot of times where if you just kind of hold your nerve and kind of watch the taker, I presume as a goalkeeper you can learn a lot from guessing which way they're going to go by their body shape and the way they run up.
100%. It's definitely something that we'll try to include as much of the run up as possible. You'll see like your Ivan Toney's that have that really slow run up, and that's a horrible penalty to have to face, because like you said, you can't go early because he'll just roll it in the other corner. So you have to really hold your nerve and wait as long as you can, and then you've either got your decision based on what you've previously seen, or seen if you can have a little look, see if he's looking one way or something, and just to try and get any little clues that you can. But yeah, definitely looking at body shapes. We've looked at if they rotate their arm as they put it out inwards or out, or whatever it is, if they take a certain number of steps backwards into the sides, and that means they're going one way. If they there's been ones where they have a really quick run up if they're going to your left, and they have a lot more slower and a stuttered run up and they've gone more central or to your right, for example. It's definitely something that we'll try to pick out, but we also sometimes want to leave that to the keepers to see if they notice it, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to be having to make that decision, and we can provide as much as we can, but they're the one in the moment that has to step up and try and make the save. I think just touching on the penalty maps as well, I think one thing that you don't often see is, and if you're watching a game on Sky, for example, they'll pull up, here's Haaland's last 10 penalties. And that all looks really good on the little graphic, but they don't often number the penalties. So I'm looking at it going, well, which was his last one? Which was his most recent? It's all good saying he's put 6 to the left, 6 to the right, and 2 down the middle, but I don't know which is his most recent. That doesn't help me. When I'm watching a game and someone goes, which way is he going? I don't know. I've got no information to go off of other than this is where he's put the majority of them.
I suppose also you've got things to think about of like, if Man City are 3-0 up and he's less pressure, does he put it somewhere different to when it's the last minute and he needs to, there's a lot more pressure on it? Does he change his tendencies then? So there's loads of different variables in there, I suppose. So we'll often try and look at as much as we can. We'll try and find pressure penalties. So if they've taken it in a shootout, like I said, it's to win it. Or if it's it's playoff final at Wembley, 87th minute, and they've put it in the top left corner, you go, well, is that a theme? Can we find other penalties where it's been late in the game to win it, and that's what they've done? We've had goalkeepers in the past that have liked to try and see if we could find the first ever penalty, which again is difficult to find at times, but sometimes it might just be they might have changed
the style of penalty. If they've been taken for 5, 6, 7 years, they might just go, oh, well, I know that people are starting to look at my recent penalties, but I know I used to take a penalty however many years ago, and I've changed, I've evolved my run up since then. So I'll go back to that one, and if that's a penalty that we can have, that might just be something we go, oh, he's slightly changed his run up here, but I've got it in my head. I'm going to go this way, even though that's not what we agreed upon beforehand.
Yeah.
And you might just make that save then, and that might be the difference between winning the game and losing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is very interesting because obviously there's the nerves that the taker will have, but then also the taker's stood, especially at the higher level when there's loads of available footage, but the taker is looking at the goalkeeper and he knows that the goalkeeper knows exactly where he's put his last 20 penalties. So does he go the same? So there's lots of, it's very psychological at that point, I'd say. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. So one thing I would like to ask Adam, as we kind of get through these questions, is kind of advice for others. So if there's any analysts watching, maybe they're already in clubs or maybe they're, going through the university, stages and they want to, they've kind of like what you've heard and they feel like goalkeeper and specific analyst could be something that they'd enjoy. Any advice for those to be able to make that kind of similar niche down to what you've done?
Yeah, I think if you're trying to start out, I think it is just trying to get on an internship as soon as possible when they come up. They will be naturally very competitive roles, but I think if you can try and get on one, whether that's doing it through your undergraduate like we've said we did, or whether it's trying to go into the masters, and a lot of the masters you'll be in a club. So and then once you're in, it's if that is something that you're wanting to get into, it's probably a discussion between the head of analysis, maybe the goalkeeping coach, sort of touching upon, this is something I'm interested in. Is this something that you think we can facilitate? And just sort of going from there, really. I think until you ask the question, you won't really know. I think I was lucky in the sense that I didn't know that goalkeeper analysis was a thing.
Yeah.
And then one day it was for me. And I've kind of gone from there. But I think, it's just asking that question really and seeing where you go from there.
Yeah, I think it's about kind of adding value as in any job really. Like if you can prove to, like what you were like the coaches might not really understand the value that a goalkeeper analyst could bring. But if you can say to them, like, this is what I can do, like, let me kind of show you a few bits and pieces, let me see what you think of this. And then if they can think, okay, well, that adds a hell of a lot of value, like that's really useful. So yeah, definitely let's do more of that. So yeah, get yourself in there, start asking questions and just kind of start to kind of tease people with different bits of work that you can do if that's something that you want to kind of go down and kind of grow from there. So yeah, that's a good answer. So one thing I do ask everyone, Adam, that comes on here is, do you have any recommendations for any books or podcasts? I don't know if you are a reader, if you have time to read. It doesn't have to be sport, doesn't have to be goalkeeping, literally anything, mate. Anything you want to give a shout out to?
Yes, I'll be honest, I'm not a big book person. But yeah, there's 2 podcasts that I listen to religiously every week. So I'm a big film and TV nerd. Away from the football, I try to get to the cinema as much as possible and stuff. So I love the Weekly Planet podcast. They cover all things film, TV, comic books, all that type of stuff. It might not be for everyone, but it's something that I really love. And then the other one, I'm a big FPL player as well. So FPL Therapy was one that came out last year, and it's something that I've absolutely loved listening to and getting all those insights. A lot of stats and stuff are involved in that. So again, that's something that might just help people, looking at stats. And if you're not too sure, it's something that hearing someone else break it down in a podcast format might just be a less daunting way of trying to understand stats. So they're probably the 2.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good answer. I'm sure a lot of people listening will also be big into their FPL as well. So I took a step back. It takes up too much time for me, so I had to take a step back. It was overwhelming, but yeah, I'm sure lots of people listening have got the teams ready. Obviously, as we're recording this, Premier League season is a week and a half away. So yeah, looking forward to seeing. I always say it, but Sunderland are back in the top flight, so I'm looking forward to that. So, perfect, Adam. Listen, that's everything, mate. I've gone through lots of different questions I wanted to ask you. So, firstly, thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your insights into what you get up to and around the role. Is there anything else you want to give a shout out to before we wrap it up?
don't think so. I think we've covered everything. Yeah, just thanks for reaching out and having me on. It's being something different for me. It's something that's pushing me out of my comfort zone. But something that I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to do. So thanks for allowing me to do it.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to link down the couple of episodes, the podcasts you mentioned there, other relevant episodes that I've had before that are linked to things we've spoken about. I'll link them down below. You are on LinkedIn, Adam, so if people want to kind of get in touch, I'm sure they can kind of find you on there. So yeah, other than that, I wish you all the best for the season and whatever comes next in your goalkeeper analysis world, mate. So yeah, thanks again for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.